My days of enjoying picking on Tito Ortiz are long behind me, in all fairness, right? Because a lot of that came from competitiveness. Even if it was a sourness in my mouth, it was about trying to get another match. It came from a competitiveness. When I retire, I feel like that has to go too, just in the honor of sportsmanship. If you step aside, I think you need to zip it. And I always had a code in my career. I'd say whatever I wanted, but I'd answer for it. I'd show up and I'd walk in there on any given night, and I would answer for it. So I only share with you, it's behind me, but that doesn't mean the gift that is the ideas and the mind of Tito Ortiz has quit. Tito tweeted out, so this is for the public to see, and for other people, not me, for other people to make fun of him and tease him. To Chuck Liddell, Chuck, we should run it back. In the UFC. Now, the UFC didn't want those guys to fight years ago because they thought they were too old. And the way years work is whatever age you are, if years go by, you're now older. And it's one of those concepts, right? I mean, you either get it or you don't. It's one of those concepts that I don't think he understands. So when you come out with that publicly, and that's very relevant as well, because if you're going to be in politics, and I wish him the best in all fairness, if you're going to be in politics, you need to get whatever deal you need to get done quietly in a room. You then come out publicly with this suggestion so that you now have the choice. Do I want to do it or do I not want to do it? You don't come out publicly with the deal first, because then you look like a fool when you don't get what you want. And I'm not sure we need to get there. I think we need to back up to the previous aforementioned step, that when you're a certain age, years later, you're no longer that age. You're now a different age, and that age is known as older. I mean, you see where this is relevant, right? It's not about what they are today or the years that went by. It was the initial number was too old. But now it's a different number? You're following me, right? Okay. And I've warned you a million times in this sport, don't ever call for a shot that you can't get publicly, because there's nothing worse in this business than to look weak. If you don't have power in this business, you don't have anything. If you're out begging for anything and you're not getting it, you're now weak. The truth is, 99.99% of us in the sport are weak. The difference is the smart ones don't show it. So once we get a good, clear meaning, which could be hard to do, I understand it's complicated, but when we get a good, clear meaning on what age means, we then have to look at the fact that Chuck Liddell versus Tito Ortiz bankrupted a company. We really got to look in that direction. Those pay-per-view numbers, you don't keep those secrets for 10 minutes. Not if you're in the business. One phone call, I'll know those exact numbers, and I don't have to go to Dana, and I don't have to go to Oscar, and I don't have to go to Coker, I don't got to go to Eddie Hearn, I don't got to go to Bob Arum. I will go to the head of the network, and they will take the call, and they will tell me. I don't ever come out and tell you guys, which is why I continue to have those phone calls taken. But I have to know who's drawing and who's selling, but I'm also doing business with those networks. So I will then make my plays based on that information. I only share with you, perhaps Tito thinks that that's coveted information. Or perhaps he forgot that he and Chuck just fought years ago, and it did so poorly that the company they fought for is no longer. But if you were armed with that information, would you put on that same fight? The fight that you said no to years ago, and not because you didn't like them or respect their skills, you just thought they were too old, and now they're older. Like, is there something about the Chuck, Tito, and what do you call the fourth time, right? I got the first meeting. I even got a rematch. I understand what the third one is. What do you call the fourth fight? Why are we here? But what do we call in addition to everything? And why would have it been like a fine wine that aged better with time? Because that's essentially what Tito is risking. He's essentially just trying to risk and put his cards out there that, look, I know this thing sucked, and I know that we bombed, and I know that this business is no longer in. This company is no longer in business. Oh, by the way, the company that's no longer in business was a company that we both thought could do so well. Perhaps it would put you guys out of business, but now you're the ones left standing, so we're going to come to you. But maybe, just maybe, this quadruplet of a fight is like fine wine, and it looks better after it's aged. Maybe. So not only should he and Chuck run it back. Now, you guys know how I feel about vernacular in this sport. Run it back is a football term, I got that, but run it back is uniquely brought to this industry by Robbie Lawler. Robbie Lawler said, let's run it back. And all of the kids on the underground thought it was a really great line, much like when Daniel Cormier coined share the octagon with. And now everybody's out there sharing the octagon with. Or when Chael Sonnen started calling fights contests. So now everybody's calling it a contest. And you know what? I like that one, in all fairness. I coined Make the Walk. I coined a few of them that are out there. I'm very flattered by it. But if you're going to do a call out for a fight that already happened and bankrupted a company, and now you want to do it with the company that your entire intent was to harm in the first place, and you want to do it against an opponent who Dana White said no to publicly years ago, and by the way, is friends with, so you can't even call it a favor. I would just be curious as to what the next step is. For example, imagine Tito's right and that quadruple fight is sought after. Do we now state a number? Does Tito demand 7 figures and pay-per-view points? Like where does this idea end? And fortunately, we're never going to get there. I'm sharing with you a fantasy. I would have liked for Twitter to have made an exception to the 160 characters and allow 360 characters. I'd like to hear all of the ideas of the fight. I'd like to hear all of the details. I imagine it's going to be a pay-per-view. Would it be a main event? What would the money be? How many rounds are they going to go? What's the weight class? Like, I'm not sure that the joke has to stop within the confines of Twitter rules. I think there's more to it. I think had he kept going, we would still be laughing. Not to mention this is on the heels, right, of a very public. Things would just get very strange very, very fast. And I think my biggest problem, aside from wanting to do a fight that bankrupted a company and that company was designed to destroy the very company that you're now coming to with your hat in your hand, I think my favorite part about it is that he stole Robbie's line. And John Jones just tried to pull this same one. John Jones just tried to come at Francis Ngannou in a tweet calling for black on black crime, which is Quentin Rampage's line that he coined the night he fought, ding, ding, John Jones.